You are listening to Pocketful of Diamonds, Book 7 of the Nadia Wolf series, written by Nicolette Pierce. Copyright 2016. Audio copyright 2025 by Pierced Heart Publishing. Digitally narrated with full cast of voices. Chapter 3. The next morning, Ian awoke to the sound of scratching. He cracked open his eyes and settled them on the screened window where Manny peered back at him. It had been a long night, one filled with sounds that normally comforted him but now kept his heart racing. Within the wildlife songs came rustling and movement. He had never noticed it before. It kept him awake, thinking that rebels were moving right outside his hut, coming for him. And while he didn't think it was true, it kept his senses on alert. It wasn't until the night sky had lightened several shades that Ian had finally fallen asleep. With a yawn, he sat up and unlatched the screen, allowing Manny to scurry in. "Why are you here?" Ian asked the pesky monkey. "I have no food. Jala isn't here, and Gerard took the pineapple, which I'm sure you ate."
"He ate the entire plate,"
Gerard said. Ian jumped, startled at the voice, then turned to glare at Gerard, who was looking in the window that Manny had arrived at only seconds ago. "What are you doing here?" Ian asked. "I already told Manny I don't have any food." Gerard tossed a small cloth bag through the window.
"Take a look."
Ian opened the bag and peered inside. Where did these come from?
"The mine, of course."
Ian poured out the bag and spread the diamonds on the bed. They still needed to be cut and polished, but he could tell they were exquisite. "Where did you get them?" Ian asked. "I thought we were dry."
Fode and I revisited a spot we originally overlooked.
Gerard glanced behind him.
He should be along in a moment. But this is just the beginning.
Ian held the diamonds with a feeling of new hope. "We can rebuild the village." Gerard laughed.
You could rebuild the village 10 times over if you wanted to.
"Let me get dressed. I want to see the site." Ian dropped the stones back into the bag and tossed them to Gerard. "I'll meet you at the office in a few minutes." Gerard nodded and called for Manny. As soon as they were gone, Ian hurried to change into serviceable clothes: cropped cargo shorts, a tank top, and his cowboy hat. If his family saw him in the fields, they'd laugh, especially his tailored suit-loving brother. But after mucking in mud for a day, he'd learned quickly what clothes worked and didn't work. And jeans definitely didn't. By the time the sun set, he'd be caked with 20 pounds of mud. As soon as he dragged a comb through his thick dark hair and brushed his teeth, he raced out of the cabin. Finally, something was changing for the better. Fode met him on the trail. The 50-something-year-old walked with the pep of a school kid. "Gerard told me the good news," Ian said. Fode smiled widely.
"It didn't take long for Gerard to find the spot last night."
"Last night?"
"He knocked on my door after midnight and insisted I come with him."
"Did he happen to have a bottle of pollo?"
"No, that was long gone."
"I'm sorry he woke you so late." Fode shrugged.
"Gerard works hard. I help him when I can."
"Thank you." He clapped the man on the shoulder. "Will you do me a favor and let your mom know I'll skip breakfast today?"
"She will not be pleased."
"That's why I'm asking you to give her the message." Ian smiled. Fode chuckled.
"I will tell her, but you owe me."
"Anything."
"I will hold you to it."
Fode said, retreating down the trail to Ian's cabin.
"She will be to your house soon. I will go now."
"Thank you. I'll see you later at the mine." Ian jogged down the trail, thankful for Jala and her family. Fode, her son, was one of the hardest workers at the mine and acted as a supervisor for the rest of his family, which included brothers, sisters, children, nieces, and nephews. They were all there, all working. Even Jala's great-grandchildren worked. Ian had put a stop to it during school, but Fode had insisted that some light work would help them grow into strong men and women. So, they negotiated. Ian allowed them to help while not in school, and he set aside a college fund for them. And if there was ever a reason to set aside work to play with the kids, Gerard would be the one to find it. Soccer was always a highlight. Jala insisted that she keep score because Gerard was not to be trusted with the task. When Ian flew into the office, Gerard teased,
What took you so long?
"I can't believe you woke up Fode in the middle of the night. His wife will shoot you one day, and I wouldn't blame her."
I didn't want to wait. It was only a few hours until morning anyway.
Gerard shrugged.
Besides, Manny was quite insistent.
More like the pollo affected your judgment.
Judgment that was correct, I might point out.
Ian glanced at the monkey now picking through Gerard's hair. "What's with the two of you?"
What do you mean?
"He seems rather attached."
He knows a good human when he sees one, which is probably why he's not overly fond of you.
Gerard scratched Manny under the chin.
Who's a good little fellow?
"Just don't let him get into the pollo again." Ian sat down at his desk where the small bag of diamonds sat. "I nearly felt sorry for the critter." Gerard laughed.
He was having a good old time. Can't fault him for that.
Ian remembered it well. He also remembered the cleanup. For a tiny monkey, he could do some serious damage. "I'll lock the diamonds in the safe for now, but I want to sell them before we run into trouble."
Still fearful of the rebels?
"And the government. It wasn't just the rebels after the diamonds the last time. The government sent agents after me as well. They lied to my family saying I was the thief. I don't trust them any more than I do the rebels."
I can help you polish as soon as we get back from the mine.
"Thank you. It will be a load off my mind once we have funds in the account." Or, no, it was a stupid idea, one that would come back to bite him. But the more he tried to push the idea out of his mind, the more it came back at him. He could use the diamonds as bait for a certain blonde who couldn't seem to keep her hands out of his pockets. It'd be easy enough to let slip that the stones were worth millions. It was a lie, of course. The stones were probably only worth a few thousand. However, the Matahari necklace she had stolen was worth over 15 million. A few more gems worth the same could turn her eyes to him once again. Only this time he'd be ready for her.
What are you thinking? You have the most peculiar expression. If I didn't know better, I'd think you were dreaming of pizza.
Pizza. His stomach growled just thinking of the heavenly pie. "You don't suppose there is a pizza place in the city?" Gerard laughed.
There might be, but I doubt it tastes like home.
"I think I might have to take a trip out today."
For pizza? Are you serious? It's a few hours' drive to the city.
"I want to speak to a buyer about selling ridiculously expensive diamonds. Might as well stop for pizza too." Gerard eyed Ian.
It will draw unwanted attention.
"Or wanted." Gerard shook his head.
You're kicking up a sandstorm.
"This storm I'll be prepared for." Gerard scrubbed his hand over his face.
I'll come with you.
"No, I want to do this alone. I have no desire for everyone to know, just one particular person."
And you can guarantee that? Can you guarantee we won't have agents or rebels busting down our doors?
"I know who can help me."
Jasper. Unfortunately, we all know him. He comes around every few months, sniffing for information he can sell. You can't trust him to tell only one source. His only allegiance is to money.
"I can bribe him with enough to keep him quiet."
Listen to yourself, Ian. We just got the village back to rights. Sort of. Are you willing to risk it for a woman?
"She needs to see the destruction she caused. She needs to pay the price for her actions." Gerard shook his head.
No, she's infected you. For 6 months you chased after her. And for what? Give her up. For God's sake, give up your obsession with this woman.
Ian sat down. Was that what he was? Obsessed? Maybe he was, but he couldn't rid her from his thoughts or dreams. She was always there. He was afraid that she would remain with him forever if he couldn't finally shake her. If he could see her one more time, Perhaps he'd finally get over whatever hold she had on him. He saw her for what she was, a thief. So why couldn't that be enough? "You're right," Ian finally said. "I won't seek her out. I won't jeopardize the mine or the village." Gerard dropped the cloth bag into the safe and locked it.
If we pull out the hull, I think we will. You'll have to do more than keep your mouth shut.
Ian studied Gerard. "That much?" Gerard nodded.
If I'm right, we'll need armed men.
"That will cause more attention."
We might not have a choice.
Ian leaned back, suddenly uncomfortable. "How much?"
Billions.
"Are you certain?" Gerard nodded. "Who else knows?"
Just you, me, and Fode.
"Then let's keep it that way." Ian stood and led the way out the door, heading to the mine. "If it's true, we're better off leaving it untouched. Look at what happened after word got out that we had millions."
If it was known that we had billions, it would lead to all-out war.
"And we'd be at the center. It's not worth it. No diamond is worth the bloodshed it would cause." Ian had no doubt Gerard knew exactly how much was under the mud. It put them in a precarious position. First, he had been afraid that his mine had run dry and he couldn't help the villagers. Now he was afraid he would bring them more trouble. Ian had to see exactly what they were dealing with and decide what to do. No matter what the decision, he didn't want Gwen within 100 miles of Najamba.
Could you call on your family to help?
Ian laughed. "You mean my brother who was already held for ransom because of me?" "Not likely. I'm sure David said the words, 'I will never step foot into Sierra Leone again.'" Gerard shrugged.
It was just a thought. I know you said he was army.
"David's wife is pregnant and he refuses to leave her side, or promised. I'm not really sure." At the edge of the mine, he kicked off his boots and stepped into the tan mud. He sunk ankle deep. Each area was a little different. Sometimes he could walk across without sinking, and sometimes he sank to his knees. A river, the same color as the mud, ran next to the mine, depositing or stealing diamonds as it wound its way through the land.
Over here!
Gerard strode to a far corner. Ian maneuvered over to where he knew the firm ground would hold him, and then walked the rest of the way to where Gerard stood.
Just reach in. You'll feel them immediately.
Ian knelt down and pushed his hand into the soft earth. Dear God, Gerard was right. There had to be hundreds just where his hand was inserted. Ian pulled one single stone out and inspected it. He pocketed it and stood. "This area is off limits to the workers. I don't want any of them to know."
You don't trust them?
"It's not that. I don't want to put them at risk. We'll keep the stones buried for now. As long as no one knows they are there, no one will come for them. We can pull a few out now and again for quick sale." Gerard frowned. Ian wiped his hands off on his shorts. "What are you thinking?"
You're trying to keep this a secret.
Gerard scratched his jaw.
And I understand. But Sierra Leone doesn't keep secrets well. We'll be found out eventually, and then it'll be too late. They'll take everything.
"What do you suggest?"
We mine for it all at once and get it out of here as soon as possible.
Ian looked at the brightening sky for a moment. "The workers will be here soon. Let's think about this today and come up with a plan tonight." Gerard nodded.
I'll keep them out of this area for now. Will you stay and help, or do you have other work to do?
"I'll stay for the morning, but this afternoon I want to see if I can move those diamonds you put in the safe." Gerard smiled.
Great.
Ian frowned. "Why are you suddenly happy?"
No reason.
Gerard headed over to the river.
Come, I want to show you something.
"What?"
Just follow me.
Ian slowly followed Gerard over to the river. It wasn't that he didn't trust Gerard, but there were times when trusting Gerard was a bad idea, and as soon as Ian stepped near the edge of the river, he realized this was one of those times. Gerard's shrilled whistle blasted through the air, calling his army. A dozen village children raced through the grass fields and down to the river where they pushed Ian into the muddy water. As Ian sputtered to the surface, all he could see were smiling faces, and all he could hear was children laughing, and one annoying deep chuckle that spurred the kids to belly-clutching laughter. Ian knew his part well, and he played it with gusto. He jumped out of the river as any mud monster would do, dripping wet and roaring, and chased the children until each one of them had been tossed into the river, except for the youngest, of course. For little Kata, who had just turned 2, he doused her up to her knees until she squealed. The clanking of a pot caught the attention of the hungry kids, and they raced off for breakfast, with Gerard in the lead. Since Ian still had Kata in his arms, he tromped out of the water and started toward the village, her chubby hands fisted into his overgrown hair. "Are you trying to tell me I need a haircut? If Gerard doesn't have to, I don't see why I have to." Kata giggled and pulled on his hair. "You make a pretty good argument." He tickled her. She laughed and then pointed to the river. He looked over to find Harry waddling after them. "He must be hungry too," Ian said. Normally he frowned upon feeding wild animals, but Harry, along with Manny, had been adopted into the village. They were now residents. "Come along, Harry. I'm sure Jala has a salad for you." When Harry grinned, Kata clapped her hands. As he headed to breakfast with Kata still in his arms and Harry trailing after, Ian vowed to do whatever it took to keep the village safe. If that meant hiring an army, he would do so.
3 days later, Gwen zipped the suitcase closed and sat on the hotel bed, gathering strength while she waited for a taxi. She stared at her phone, which displayed the newest text and an accompanying photo. The message was a single GPS coordinate, one that she knew well, but she didn't need it. The picture was enough. She enlarged it, focusing on the dark-haired man wearing a cowboy hat. He was kneeling on the ground, his hands caked with dirt. She knew what it meant and she knew what she had to do, but just the pixelated image of him caught her by her throat. Why? Why did she have to go back? It was almost too cruel. It'd have to be a quick job and she'd have to stay invisible. If she was caught, Ian wouldn't be kind. She had tested his limits and pushed him too far, but it wasn't her decision. She'd lost that right years ago. With a deep, steadying breath, Gwen stood and made her way to the door, knowing she was walking into a hornet's nest of her own making.